Hello. Oh, right. Hey there, thanks for joining me on Tropical Weather Impact. It is August the 12th, your Tuesday, as we continue to track multiple areas in the tropics here. Erin is eventually going to pick up its steam and expected to become a hurricane. We've got this little feature off the Gulf Coast, but luckily that's not expected to do much other than this right here. We're reporting from New Orleans, and you can see plenty of clouds. So here's what's coming up on this episode of Tropical Weather Impact. We are just expecting these tropical showers along the northern Gulf from this feature. Erin expected to become a major hurricane by this weekend. We're going to talk about some trends that aren't necessarily a good trend for areas around Puerto Rico. We'll also talk about why we think it should turn before getting to the United States. And here's where we stand right now. The Gulf looks safe from Erin. The East Coast still needs to be in that somewhat of a watch mode. And I always say maybe keep one eye on it, not necessarily two the way it stands right now. So let's talk about this feature off the Louisiana and Mississippi coast. You look at satellite and you go, wait a minute, what is this? Well, it is an unorganized area of showers. This is part of a trough of low pressure, tropical moisture that's sitting over the northern Gulf. It is not going to have enough time to develop. That's the good news. And so this is just going to send some rounds of showers across the region the next couple of days. You can see a little bit of a wind switch in there right through the heart of those showers and storms, but it's not looking like significant development with this. Look at all the rain in the Gulf this morning. A lot of the heavier rain will stay near the coast and in the Gulf over the next 24 hours, but every now and then we will see some heavier showers inland, and so just watching for isolated street flooding as this moves north over the next couple of days. Just showing our precision cast, you can see there, never really gets its footing. That's good. And then, well, by Thursday, there's not much left of it, just back in our typical pop-up thunderstorm routine that happens during the summer months. All right, let's talk about Erin. Erin is maintaining its weak and, well, rough structure, to put it simply. It is not looking healthy right now. That's good and maybe bad. We'll talk about why there's kind of a double-edged sword there. That's where it is. It's still way out here. It's sitting south of that 20-degree north latitude line and heading basically west with a little southerly movement. Now, that southerly movement is important because the lower it tries to get here, and it's not going to get that low, but if it's got any southerly movement, that means maybe it's going to get a little bit closer to the islands in the long-term forecast. So here is the official track as of 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's what the storm looks like. That thing's barely a tropical storm. They're maintaining it, but I think 45 miles an hour is generous. What's happening here, it's in a lot of stable air. It lost its thunderstorms, and also the water temperatures are like 78 degrees out here, so it's not sitting in very warm water. So here's that official track, the latest update, not showing any significant changes except for a slight shift south or a slight shift closer to the islands. So we're still forecasting it to become a hurricane maybe by Thursday now. We slowed down the intensification just slightly because it does not look healthy right now. It's going to take some time to recover from this. Also notice, while they've got it moving west, it is booking it 23 miles an hour. That's extremely fast down here in this part of the Atlantic. It's got a little bit of a south component to it, and that's because it's so weak. And so right now, it's going to have a little bit of a push from the ridge in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Now, as the storm strengthens, becomes a hurricane, 1, 2, and maybe a major hurricane by this weekend, it does start to gain latitude there and start that turn to the north. But here's the biggest change in the cone. It now includes Puerto Rico. It includes the Virgin Islands. And so the islands really need to watch this closely. Now, when you look at a lot of the guidance does bring the core of this strengthening hurricane north of the islands, but there's still uncertainty here, and it's going to What's going to be a big factor here is how quickly can this storm recover from being on the weaker side in the near term. There are some models that show this thing remaining somewhat weak and struggling until it actually gets close to the islands and then trying to ramp up. And so a weaker storm is going to feel a little bit more of a northerly push, and that would keep it on the southern side of this track. So the best case scenario, it's that double-edged sword. A weaker system has a better shot of traveling a little bit closer. A stronger system feels the pull of that trough and the weakness of the ridge and tries to turn to the north a bit sooner here. So I guess when you're looking at this, it's actually maybe better to get the storm to strengthen and pull out to sea faster rather than just kind of meander a little bit closer to the islands. But that is something to watch very closely. Now, this is a 5-day cone. Our forecasts from the Hurricane Center officially don't go out beyond 5 days because you start to introduce giant room for error. I mean, just over hundreds and hundreds of miles of error can happen when you're getting out beyond 5 days. Now, why is the storm expected to strengthen? Well, once it gets over these warmer waters, we should start to see a better environment for it to actually strengthen. Right now, it's over the cooler waters here, and by cool, they're sitting at about 79, 80 degrees. But there's a stable layer in the air mass right now, and I think that's why the showers and storms have just completely disappeared from Tropical Storm Erin at this point. But we do think that will change as it shifts off to the west and eventually northwest. Now, our tropical models, when you look at these, you can see there they show that little dip southwest as it's weaker. It's feeling that ridge from the north in this direction. But as the storm strengthens, the ridge is weakening too, and we start to get this northerly component. Again, that is way too close for comfort for the potential of a major hurricane. Now, your cluster, and remember, this is showing where the center of the storm would go, shows the center north of the islands for now. We're watching these trends. But even if the center of a Category 3 hurricane is just north of the islands, you're probably getting some large swells with waves. You maybe are getting some outer bands even in this scenario. And so that is something Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands and surrounding islands will watch closely. This is also something the Turks and Caicos are going to be watching closely because we need this turn to happen sooner rather than later. Here we are Sunday night. We still have a northwest component, but then here comes this slow turn. And the way this is setting up is this is probably going to be a slow turn. You don't have this giant trough of low pressure coming down, grabbing it and yanking it up to the north quickly. It's going to be more of a much gradual, slower process. The winds in the upper air of the atmosphere here are not going to be strong at all. After all, it's sitting in a low wind shear environment. But here we are Tuesday night. You can see there that turn happening, and models still thinking this turn will happen, but then we got a problem in maybe Bermuda. And so Bermuda will be watching this too, but you've still got a solid 7 days in Bermuda to just see how things evolve. At least you have a couple more days to see how things evolve before you need to start taking action there. Our tropical models, I wanted to show this on the trends we've been looking at. So the green are our tropical models from this morning. 12Z is 7 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. The red are the tropical models from 24 hours ago, yesterday morning, and you can see the trends. You can see yesterday in the red models, we had more of a northerly section of those models, and that's because they didn't have the storm struggling as much as it is right now, thanks to that stable layer. Whereas the green models are our newer outlook of models showing that southern track, and the National Hurricane Center did acknowledge this and even said there are some models that are significantly further south than this, and that's why Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and surrounding islands really got to watch this. Now, the good news is no matter whether you look at yesterday's or today, they do still show that curve. Now, there are some models that are being a little lazy here with the curve and saying, well, maybe I hang on a little closer. That's a little too close for comfort for areas around the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. And so we're still watching it there. Now, with all that being said, we do still think the turn is going to happen the way it's looking right now. The East Coast, I'm still not terribly nervous about this, but I would watch it just in case. We are still 5 days out from this storm even being near this point, and then you've got another maybe potential 5 days of travel somewhere in here. But yes, we're thinking that north turn. So why the steering currents right now? Well, the way you look at it right now is the storm is sitting under a ridge of high pressure. It's got a little bit of a southerly movement to it because it is weak. Now, one thing to know about tropical systems, and whenever you're tracking these things, is the intensity of the storm is really important to where it's going to track to. And so whenever you have a weaker storm, like it is right now, it feels the lower level winds. It doesn't usually feel the upper level winds as much. And so that's why the ridge has a little bit of a southerly component to it, and that's why you've got the storm jogging more of a at least a southern component in this direction. Now, if the storm were stronger, it would likely be going more due west, feeling more of the stronger part of that mid-level ridge. So that's why it's got that little southerly jog right now. Now let's go out in motion here. You can see the ridge, it's still locked in and it's still extremely strong through Thursday and Friday. Now what that means is the storm is still generally going to be traveling more of a westerly movement. It may start to get a little bit of a northerly component to it as it grows stronger. Let's go into Saturday afternoon. What happened? The ridge is backing away. This is good for the U.S. because this means we now have a pathway out to sea, and what's fueling that ridge breakdown is this upper level low coming down. Upper level low, cold front, however you want to refer to it, that's going to weaken the ridge, and that's your escape path. Now the timing of all that, the strength of the storm, they all come into play on when this thing turns and what the exact path looks like. But that's why we think the East Coast and certainly the Gulf, we're feeling okay about it right now, but it is something we're going to monitor very closely, especially for our friends closer to the Bahamas and maybe parts of the East Coast. But that steering current right there, that's not a bad thing when you're looking at it from this standpoint. You can look at the GFS and the European models. They agree the similar path through at least Monday, but look at this. They go apart. Europeans a little bit closer. This would be large swells on the East Coast, and the GFS says, well, I'm going to go out to the middle of the Atlantic. And so there is still a high amount of uncertainty with exactly what's going to happen in the long term with Erin. There's a lot more updates to come over the next week. Luckily, it's still way on out here. The stress level right now is on the lower side. If I'm in Puerto Rico, though, and further down the islands, I'm watching this closely. You have a couple more days to really nail down those plans if you do have to get things ready for the potential of a hurricane, but that's where we stand right now. Just a reminder, these live updates of tropical weather impact are going to be happening all week long. The update Central Time at 10 a.m. will be live. That's 11 a.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. We will have these for you every single day right here on WWL Plus or in every other streaming services like YouTube. Thanks for joining me.